Hi friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be wrapping up all of the books that I read in the month of January. So, January, first month of the year, and I think overall it was a positive reading month, but not like the biggest in terms of book numbers, but I still read quite a few pages. So I read 6 books in total across the month of January, coming to a total of 3,632 pages. So actually my page number is pretty good. I was a bit concerned when we got to like 3/4 of the way through the month and I'd read like 3-4 books and I was like, oh dear, it's not looking very good. And then in this last week of the month, suddenly I was like, right, we're reading all the things, we're getting all these big books out of the way, we're going to do it. So I'm not quite sure how that happened, but it happened. So of these, 5 of them were fantasy. One of them, I was like, is it fantasy? Is it sci-fi? It's a sci-fantasy, okay? It's a in-between, maybe more sci-fi. And then all 6 of the books were adult. The star ratings, I was struggling a little bit. Not in terms of not having, just trying to determine exactly what rating the book is. Like, I think there's still a little bit of fluidity with the star rating. I haven't quite settled on exactly where the books are. Especially as one of the books, I still, as of filming this, have 100 pages left. So I feel like I can't give it an accurate rating just yet. But one of the books was 3-star, one was 4-star. And then there's 4 books in the 4.5 to 5-star range. Whether they're quite 5 stars is yet to be determined. It probably depends if there's 3 4.5 stars and 1 5-star, or if there's 2 5 stars, depending on those last 100 pages and seeing how those go. Because if it keeps going on the trajectory it's going, then it should be 5 stars. But then I also generally like to leave a few days before I rate a book so that I have the not longevity because it's only been a few days, but I really like to mull it over. So fluidity there. 3 of them were starts of series, 1 was a continuation, 1 was a reread, and 1 was a standalone. So I did say I was starting series in 2022, and yep, we're starting series. Those are the stats, and I guess we'll just get into the details and the nitty-gritty. So actually, one of the first books that I read, well, I started this at the beginning of the month and then it took me half of the month to read, maybe a bit longer, and that was the Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. I was buddy reading this with Angela from Literature Science Alliance and Evie from She Was Only Evie. We were reading roughly a story a day as the month went on. Some of these are like 10 pages, some of these are like 100 pages, so it really depended on the day how much we were reading out of this. And I think we all loved it. Like, I loved this. I was really not like surprised, because I had hopes that I would really enjoy this, but I was still surprised by how much I enjoyed this. Like, I think this is a really solid short story collection that every story pretty much I enjoyed. Like, there wasn't a bad story. There really wasn't a bad story in here. There were ones that I preferred over the other ones. Like, I had favourites in here, but it was so solid. So this is the one where I'm like, is it sci-fi, is it fantasy? Because some of the stories leaned more sci-fi and some of them leaned more fantasy. But I really liked the writing style through this. I liked his way with words. Yes, and it gives me so much like excitement for reading Grace of Kings and the Dandelion Dynasty, because if I like what he does in 20 pages, and the like impact that he can give me with just 20 pages, what's he going to do with like a 4-book series? I thoroughly enjoyed this. Don't tell me to pick a favourite, it's hard, okay? It's hard. But I think I really liked the stories in here which had sort of the historical fantasy twist to them, or not twist, but like the historical fantasy setting, where he's taking elements from history and he's taking some sort of fantastical twist to that. And there's a few in here that are like that, where they have that setting. Overall, I really like the themes, and I think that the way this collection is collated, the way that the stories run on from each other, that they're all very separate, but sometimes you can see a similar theme from reading one story to the next story and you can see how these themes are linked, and you can see a thematic similarity between all the stories in here. So I think it was really well put together in the way that these were collated, the order that they were put in within here. And I think I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed discussing this with Angela and Evie. I think although we all really loved it, we all thoroughly enjoyed this, I think we did all bring different takes to it and had different experiences with it, and for each of us a different story would affect us more than another story depending on your like personal experiences. But I'm very happy that I read this, and I would strongly recommend it, especially if you're after like a short story collection. I find it very enjoyable to just have, I don't know, 20 pages or whatever to read every evening, to break up in between my other books, so would definitely recommend. Another book that I read is Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. I have a full review up of this if you're interested in hearing some more thoughts on this. Overall, that seems to be my word of the day. I liked this. I liked it, didn't love it. I think it's a solid start to a fantasy trilogy. What I did like about this is that going in, I knew that this was going to be about a justice, and I thought it was about him, and it is about him, but it's actually told through his female assistant's point of view, and I really liked that she was the point of view, and then it wasn't so focused on him. Not that there's anything wrong with being focused on a male person, but I just really thoroughly enjoyed that it was the female point of view, and I think the female perspective was done well in here. I did enjoy like the murder mystery plot that we're following, and I did enjoy the world and what's happening with this world, because in this world you are following this empire that has expanded, and it's in lots of other countries have been incorporated into this empire, and this was years ago, and so you're now seeing Conrad van Vol and Helena, the assistant, traveling around meting out justice for the empire, and it's really interesting to see how the other countries have adapted to being under this empiric rule, but also the conflicts that they have and the sort of the teething issues of that. I am really interested to see where this goes next. I would have liked, I think, a little bit more world building, a little bit every hint we got to that history, I was like, give me more. So I would have liked, a little bit more of that, but I think that might come in later books, because it seems as though that's where the plot is heading, that this story was quite insular towards this murder mystery within this town that they are covering. But it does seem as though there is going to be a wider plot and a wider conflict that's going to go on. And I think I'm going to enjoy that more, that this first book is insular and then it expands. And I think I quite like that as a structuring for a series, that the first book you're following a more insular case and then things expand. But I think it's better probably when you have like all of the books at hand and you can see that collectively going through. And this is my hopes for where the series is going. This isn't like predetermined. I think it was really well done. I like the writing style, I like the pacing, and I would recommend it if you are interested in picking it up. This is one that I've finished just a couple of days ago, and that was Crescent City, or House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, my reread. So I first read this back in March 2020 when it first came out, just as everything was locking down. This was like my final book that I read just before like the whole world was like, nope, we're in lockdown. It was like a fun time revisiting this as the world is opening up. Oh my god, I loved this. I listened to the audiobook of this as opposed to reading it physically, and I mean, I'd recommend it. I enjoyed the audiobook. I don't think it's like an amazing audiobook, but I don't think it's a bad audiobook. I think it's an audiobook. God, I loved this. I loved my reread. This is why I love Sarah J Maas. Like, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was just hooked. I was hooked all the way through. I just wanted to be reading this book or listening to this book. I just wanted to be reading it all the time. I do get what people say that the middle, I don't know if the middle could be cut down a little bit. Like, it is a long book. It is 800 pages, and maybe something could have been cut out of the middle. I don't know. But I mean, it was still like 5 stars amazing book for me. But I do think like the last 200 pages is the best 200 pages in the book. Like the ending of this book is so good. It's so good. On Friday when I was reading this, I was out for a run, and I was nearing the end of the book. I had I was in the last hour of the book. So, right at the end, I was on this run and I was like, gotta keep going. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening in this book? Even though I know what's going to happen because I'd read it before, but some of it I'd forgotten. And I was like, oh my God. And it was just, I don't know if it was a very bad decision to be out on a run whilst experiencing all the emotions of the ending of this book, but it's a dramatic ending. I don't know is it spoilery to say it's a dramatic ending? Like, I don't know. I was completely hooked. I was hooked and addicted. I just adored it. I adored it. And I am so excited for book 2, which is coming out in just a couple of weeks, and I've got it pre-ordered and I'm so excited to read it. And yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. One that I did not enjoy so much, and okay, there hasn't really been like a structuring to the order I'm picking these books up, but I have ordered these last ones because they have a similar theme, and I know that Angela likes to do a theme with her books, so I've decided to put a little theme here at the end of the wrap up, because I ended up reading multiple books that had this theme of there's this evil force beyond the wall, this wall that's crumbling, that's been there for thousands of years, and now the evil is breaking through. Okay, there we go. That's the theme that we're going for. So I read Greenrider by Kristen Britton, and for me, this was just fine. It was fine. It was just okay. It was just so okay that it was so 3 stars. It was just like average as average. And I really wanted to love it. I was going in, I was like, I've seen, like, quite a few of my friends had been reading it and they were really enjoying it. And I was like expecting that, and I just wasn't. I think if I'd read this as a teenager, I would have loved this. If I hadn't read so many books, I might have really thoroughly enjoyed this. I think there are some really fun scenes in this. You're following this girl called Carrigan, and at the beginning of the book, she has run away from school due to an incident and she comes across this Greenrider who is a messenger for the crown, and he has been shot and fatally injured, and she ends up taking on his message to deliver it to the king, and I don't know, escapades happen on her delivery of the message, and there was this evil force from beyond the wall. I think there were some really fun scenes in this. Like there were some scenes in here where I was so hooked. I was like, oh my god, this is such a fun scene. Like, I love this scene. But I felt like the scenes were just that, they were scenes. They didn't have the like connections between them. It felt like it was a book where I was like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, this, as opposed to feeling like a complete plot, a complete book. I don't know, I felt like it was missing character development. Like we just had these characters and we didn't know who they were. They could have been anyone. The world building, it did get better as the book went on, but at the beginning I was like, where's the world building? Where's anything? It was just these great scenes, but without any of the other aspects that I need in a book. Like, I wanted more characters. I wanted them to be developed. I wanted the world to be developed. I just wanted development instead of just having these really great scenes. So it didn't quite work for me as a reader because I was just wanting more. And maybe you get that in further installments, but I think I just felt like this book was so average and fine. I don't feel compelled to keep going. Sam and Fish have said the same, that they're not compelled to keep going either, who I was buddy reading this with. But yeah, I really don't feel like it's done anything bad. I don't think it's a bad book. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just was missing aspects for me, and I'm sad about it because I really wanted to love this, and it has so many aspects that in theory I would love. Like, it's got this, you know, it's got the classic fantasy tropes that I feel like I would enjoy in theory, but it just didn't work. And part of me does think that it's because I've read so much fantasy now, and this is older. Like, this was from the 1990s, maybe 1998. So maybe if I read this when it came, well, I wouldn't be reading when it came out because I would have been 4. But maybe if I'd read this 10 years ago, I would have really enjoyed it. I think it would have really worked for my tastes back then. But right now, it didn't. And I'm sorry. I really wanted to love this and I really wanted to be able to recommend it, but it just felt very cookie cutter and fine. Now moving on to the final 2 books, and they're the same series, so I feel like it's best to just talk about them together. And this also has this evil force beyond the wall, and this wall that's crumbling. So it's a very weird theme to have in a month, and that is the Lycania Trilogy by James Islington, and I'm loving this. I am loving this. So I read all of The Shadow of What Was Lost, and I currently have just 100 or so pages left in An Echo of Things to Come. So I'm finishing it within the month. Today is the 30th, and I'm finishing this today. So it's in the wrap up, despite filming the wrap up before I finished the book. And oh my god, I'm so having so much fun with this. This is the one where I'm like, I think this one I put at 4.5 stars. This is the one where I'm like, is it going to be 4.5 or is it going to be 5? Because I haven't quite decided yet. Where I have the rating issue. Not issue, but like still thinking. And oh my god, this series, I picked this one up on a whim. When I came back from my parents after New Year, I was like, I really want to read an epic fantasy. And I was looking at my TBR and I was like, I'm just going to go completely rogue, because I had, like, you know, there's a pile of books that I have next to me that I want to read. Like, I have Oathbringer, that's an epic fantasy. I could have picked up that. And I was like, no. We're going to pick up this, because why not? What a great decision, Abby. What a great decision to start the year on, because I was hooked. I was so hooked from the beginning. So this is a epic fantasy, if you hadn't guessed, and you have a whole cast of characters. Now, I feel like with this book, the bulk of the story happens after a reveal twist, and I feel as though I don't really want to talk about it because so much of the story happens after this point, and I didn't know what this point was. I mean, I don't know how much you know going into this because there is no blurb on this. I just went in very blind. Me not knowing about this scene, I was so shocked. I was like, what? Oh, wow, okay, things are changing. Like, okay, this is not going where I think we were going. So I don't really want to talk about that. You have multiple characters, but some of them I can't talk about because you don't meet them until later on, but they're obviously a main character because they're like all over the series. I guess the three main characters that you meet at the beginning of the book, you have Davian, you have Asher, and you have Weir, and there are, I guess, three main perspectives. They are at a school for magic and learning to control their magic, and in this world, 20 or so years ago, the rule of the people, the gifted who have magic, fell, and now they are sort of repressed by this administration that really control their movements and control their magic, and so they're sort of looked down upon by society, and you follow them and their journeys. There's a lot more to it than that. It's one of those books where there's a lot that goes on, and I feel like I'm still trying to figure out where everything is going, that there's a lot of plot threads and a lot happening, and just some of the scenes in here. I'm loving some of the scenes, but I'm also loving the bits in between the scenes. I really like our characters. I don't know who I should be liking and who I shouldn't be liking. I mean, I like them all, but I don't know who I should be rooting for. So there's that. I'm intrigued by the magic. There's different powers that people have in here, and I'm just so intrigued. I'm so intrigued by the magic, by the history of the world. I don't even know where to start with the history of the world. Like, there's a lot going on there, and I feel like I'm still finding out a lot. And I'm just hooked, and I have so many questions. I'm getting some answers, but I need more answers. And I'm thankful. I'm so thankful for the people that told me, Abby, when you finish this book, don't leave it too long. Don't leave it too long before you read the second book. So I think I left a couple of books in between, and that was a good decision, because there's a lot of plot threads that go on from here to here, and that you do need to just keep going. Otherwise, I'd be so lost if I'd left months and months and months between them. I'm hooked. I'm hooked, and I would definitely recommend this. I don't feel like I've heard that many people talk about it, really. I did watch, so after reading this, I had so many questions, and I was like, I'm confused by so many things, and is it me that hasn't clicked things together? And I watched the shelf space discussion that Jessie did with Jade from Bedtime Bookworm, and they were talking about this, and although they were confused as well, it still helped me piece things together. So I'd recommend watching that live show if you are interested, because there is a non-spoiler section and a spoilery section for if you've read this. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching that, so I'll link it, but I'm addicted. If you have seen my February TBR, then you know that the third book is on there, and then I'm going to just finish off the series. I think again I might leave a book or a couple of books in between these two, just to have a change of pace. These are very large, these are massive, and I'm just so happy that I started off the year with this series, and that I'm having so much fun with it. I cannot speak as well to the marketing of this, where it says that will appeal to Wheel of Time fans, because I've not read Wheel of Time to know that. I think this will appeal to epic fantasy fans, if that's anything. If you like epic fantasy, then I think you will like this. It is a bit confusing. It is confusing, because there's a lot to keep track of. There's a lot of names and a lot of places and just a lot. But if you can cope with that, then I'll recommend this. And I can't wait to read the last 100 pages later today. I literally read 250 pages yesterday of this. I need to know. I need to know what's going to happen. I need to know. It's all heating up. Okay, so those are the 6 books that I read in the month of January. How was your reading month? Did you have a good reading month? Did you have a good start to the year? What was your favourite book of January? Yeah, let me know what your favourite book was. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my future videos. Bye!